This is mango and peach. So I got mangoes and peach looked the best at the store, so that's what I bought. 2 pounds of fruit, like chunked up. I didn't peel it, I just rinsed it off. I peeled the mango because it wasn't organic. I left the peaches because they were local and organic. And best fruit kvass I've ever made always is from the stuff from my own yard. So when berries are in season, we pick a lot of blackberries because they grow wild here and make a lot of soda using blackberries. We also have a ton of raspberries, so I've done that a lot of times. I've tried apples, I've tried citrus fruits, I've tried plums. I've done cranberries, was not very good. That's one I would say is not very good. This is my first time trying basil in one though, so I'm excited about that. So, okay, so there we go. We got 2 pounds of fruit. And then sugar. There's a lot of different kinds of sugars, but I find the best effects I get is just from white sugar. The exception of, and this is just for kvass I'm speaking on because I do use different sugar when I'm making the pineapple tapache. So you can use less than a half a cup, but not by much. You could probably get away with 1/4 a cup. But remember, this is the food that's going to feed the bacteria here. So I'm just going to pour the sugar straight on top. And that was a half a cup. And now I need water. So I'm like 8 cups of water. And this is a half gallon is 8 cups of water. So I'll just fill up this glass jar and pour it in here. And I'm almost done. And then you get to look at this food looking pretty in the jar and changing color, and it smells good. And as long as you keep your cover in place, you know, like it's getting the fruit fly season again. So if you don't keep the cover in place, you're going to get fruit flies. This is their favorite food for sure. So you can do 6 to 8 cups if you like it stronger, but I kind of like them more mellow. I prefer 8 cups of water. And then you just need like a long handled spoon to give it a really good stir. So this is going to be your key to like what you need to do over the next few days. Kvass typically takes 3 to 5 days. And it's going to be depending on how warm your house is and a few other factors, you know. So just you're going to like learn to know when it's done intuitively and by paying attention to it. This action of stirring and making like a whirlpool, like a vortex inside, like stirring really, really hard, that needs to be done at least 2 times a day. 3 or 4 would be better. So it's not a big deal. Leave it on your counter where you're going to see it, and then just take the lid off, stir it really good. I just rinse the spoon and set it on my drying rack so I have it next time I need it. And that's going to like bring oxygen down into the brew. It's going to move everything around. If you don't do that, you're going to get mold on the fruit that floats on the top. Walk by it, stir it. When you do that, smell it, like it already smells good, but it's going to start to smell so much more fruity. And then you're going to start to get this little bit of like vinegary, and then maybe eventually a little bit of like an alcohol kind of thing going on. And the liquid is going to change darker. So like when I started this, the liquid was clear, it was water. And now it looks like this. So when you know it's done is by a few things. So the liquid's going to be darker. It's going to smell really fruity. It might smell a little alcoholic. It might smell a little vinegary. And the fruit in there is really pale. So like the strawberries that are left in there are kind of white. So the whole top of this one is like foamy, and it smells fruity and it sounds good. So the most important thing I could recommend is to listen, because you're going to hear it, these little bubbles. It's not like a carbonated soda in a can, but it's like this gentle effervescence. It's like a symphony. It's going to talk to you. So before I get any weirder, just listen to your ferment and you'll know what I mean eventually. So this one, if I thought it wasn't done right now, I would just say, it's time to move it around. It's got foam on top and things have been settled for a few hours. There's the opportunity for mold to start growing on the surface. YouTube channel videos might also tell you to submerge your stuff under, like we talked about with fermented vegetables. But because this is not a long ferment, I call it quick ferment 3 to 5 days. you don't actually need to as long as you're present with it and you're going to remember to stir it. So remembering to stir it is, I think, one of the most important parts. The only time I've ever gotten mold on anything was on pineapple tapache and I had forgotten it. This thing is done. All you need to do is put your lid on it. And done, I see done for now. So set it aside and stir it 3 times a day, pay attention to it. And then about day 3, when it's looking like this, you can start to taste it. And to do that, that tastes really good. So this is pineapple, strawberries, and basil. And that's a super awesome flavor combo. So we're gonna finish this one. So you just saw how to start kvass. This is how to finish it. The fine mesh strainer is getting, like, if there's any loose strawberry seeds or anything, it's catching all of that, a little bit of pulp. Now I usually put this stuff in a bowl and let it sit for a while because I can always get like one more bit of juice out of it at the end. So I don't chuck that just yet. So that's kvass. Now, if I wanted to, I could drink this. This done, it's gonna taste good. But if I want it to be more carbonated, like right now in the mouth, if you hold it in your mouth for a minute, you can feel like slight effervescence. But if you pour this into a sealed bottle and leave it on the counter for another few days, that's going to be called a secondary fermentation. That's going to actually trap the carbon dioxide in there as it's developing, and then you're going to get a fizzier soda. And it's going to be cold when, you know, after it's fermented for a few days, then you move it to the fridge for a day, and then that's when I consider it done and ready to drink. And I'm going to show you my trick for bottling, which I originally heard from Sandor Katz as well. If you're not familiar with him and you're getting into fermentation, you'll probably run into his name a lot. He's considered a fermentation revivalist, and he's traveled the whole world and written lots of books, and is a wealth of information. I like to ferment in glass when I can, but with glass, I can't tell how carbonated this is until I open it. So to be able to tell, I save these bottles and I fill one bottle in the plastic, and then I fill the rest of it into glass. And I use this bottle to tell by squeezing it. So a full bottle has pretty firm. And then when you first fill it, it's going to be squishy. So as you come and check this once a day or whatever, depending on your temperature, you can a couple times a day because it can go really fast. When this bottle feels hard, then I move it to the fridge to stop fermentation. So that's why some of my kvass or sodas are always in plastic bottles. So let's see if I can do this without making a big mess. You can see it's already pretty carbonated. Like as I pour, I'm getting some nice foam. You want to give yourself, you want to give yourself some headspace, but I say like an inch, not much more, you know, yeah, about an inch. So I'm going to try to fill it to here. I'm going to wait till these bubbles go down a little bit and come back to this one and top it off a little more. But look at that. There's no artificial color. There's nothing in this except fruit, sugar, and water. And a lot of that sugar has now been eaten by these healthy bacteria. So another benefit to the way I did this was I poured that stuff through a strainer into here. All the liquid got mixed up. So all the yeast that's in here is going to be kind of like evenly distributed, which is good because you want that to try to get in each bottle. Yeast likes to sink to the bottom. So you want to make sure before you pour that you're stirring it up. So there's like this kind of like this little knuckle here on these swing top bottles, and that's where I aim for when I'm filling my bottles up. And then you can close it. You can see it's like active. It's pretty good. And I've got a little more room I'm going to go for in here. So now you can see that this is like a little bit squishy. And when that starts to get really hard is when I'm going to move it to the fridge because I don't want any more carbonation to build up from that. And then label your bottles. I'm going to say strawberry, pineapple, basil. Usually I make a weird name. And it's the 5th today. And I write 2F and then the date, because that's reminding me that I'm talking about when did I bottle it and set it on the counter. 2F is second fermentation. So first fermentation was 3 days. Second fermentation starts now, and then I can just set it aside. But yeah, when it's warmer, it's going to go faster. So that's why I don't tell people that how long to ferment it. It's the signs that you want to look for that it's done. So the color being the liquid being more colorful, the fruit being pale, the smell of it, the activity. So now there's still, sugar and there's yeast in this, and it's going to continue to ferment. And because it's so unpredictable, that's why I like to use the plastic bottle, because then I have some way to gauge how much the fermentation has increased, how much carbon dioxide has built up in the bottles without having to crack them. Other people say that you can just burp them, like by just a tiny bit opening it up, and then you can kind of feel how much pressure is there. But when you do that, you let some of the pressure out, and the whole point is trying to capture that. So the plastic bottle trick, I think, has been really handy. And I'm going to confess, I'm a little bit afraid of my fermented stuff. I'm kind of scared of the Jack in the Box. I mean, not the restaurant, but like the children's toy. It's just when I know I'm going to be startled and then it happens, it's like not my favorite thing. So actually, I usually say, Chud, will you please pour me a glass of kombucha, because I'm afraid to open my own box. So there's a little thing, but I do it anyway. And this is exposure therapy, right? So I think for me, the plastic bottle has been a big deal because I was scared to use these spring top bottles instead. And I did open one thing once, and the lid shot out of my hand to the ceiling, and it was a whole fountain. And so that didn't help either. So that's also why I'm really careful with my fermentation lids with fermented vegetables, and why I don't use canning lids, because I'm scared of that pop sound that's going to happen. And I know it's coming, and I'm still afraid of it. Stupid. It's really stupid. So